Sure. We're a residential-only fund. We focus on, small one-off apartments in the center of Kyiv. I guess Nick had a pretty good way of looking at what we do. We're Kyiv-centric only. We're not buying in Lviv or some of the other smaller cities. We buy, we renovate, and then we rent. We think it's an excellent market opportunity right now to do that, and we're finding a lot of value in the center. Kyiv-centric to us really means really right in the center around Zolotoy Vorota, the Golden Gate, maybe out to Pechersk, Lipki potentially, and Shevchenko. So we have pretty specific target. We have a pretty specific target market that we're looking at, and we're finding pretty good value here. One of the funny things about the residential market that a lot of you guys might not know or might not be fully aware of is the fact that there's no mortgages, there's very little, if any, property taxes, and generally low maintenance and carrying costs. So what does that mean? It means a lot. Even in the situation we have now here in Ukraine, which is obviously quite difficult, as everybody's aware of, that there's still not as many motivated sellers as you might think, particularly in the areas in the historical center of Kyiv, where we like to buy and we like to rent. Prices still have maintained their value and haven't dropped quite as much as they have in the perimeter or the peripheral part of the city. In terms of what we do, we try to buy at a decent value. We renovate, hopefully within $500, give or take, a little less, a little more, depending on the renovation style we choose. And then we try to rent to diplomats and the expatriate community. That could be anybody from the embassies to NGOs to local corporates. But as everybody knows here, the corporations of the expat community in terms of the corporates has really abated a lot, and there's not as many of those guys left just because the business has slowed down. But where we do find some pretty good rental demand is in the diplomatic community. And maybe one thing one place I might differ, I guess, a little bit with what we're experiencing in our small market segment is the fact that we're seeing kind of a pickup in rents. And I guess kind of post-Maidan or whatever, there was basically kind of a rule of thumb that rents had kind of dropped around 40%, I guess, in general, at least in the residential markets. And we're seeing a lot more demand this year compared to last year in terms of diplomats and some new foreign executives coming in. And we hope that'll continue as we go on into the summer, and you have the June, July, August months, which tend to be kind of when a lot of these foreign companies and institutions and embassies tend to roll their people. In terms of what we do and our return hurdles, it's around 30% in terms of IRR. We're pretty optimistic about hitting those numbers. We think prices, switching to prices, I guess they bottomed out from what we think right now. We're kind of, if you go back historically, prices are down 60-70% depending on the location in the city from where they were pre-crisis. Pre-crisis, I mean, I guess the real crisis, not Maidan, but back in 2007, 2008, where you had some price levels here of up to 10, 12,000 per square meter in the very central areas and in Lipki. But now you're seeing a lot of property kind of be anywhere from, seems like when we look at brokers and when we look around the market in general and talk to our agents, it's anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500. We're trying to buy within that and get kind of one-off deals, which means we're slow and steady. But right now prices are kind of on average around 2,000. I'd say in the markets we target, and I guess in terms of rental, like I'm saying, rents are probably, I'd say probably come up 10-15% in the last 6 months. It's been sort of slower market in January, February, obviously, but we speak to a variety of brokers. They've said that things have gotten better. They're expecting a big summer, and that's kind of where we're at there. See here right now. Renovation costs, I guess that's another thing where we try to kind of add value and save money, for lack of a better way to describe it. But we're, given the fall in the hryvnia and the labor situation here, obviously there's not as much construction that was going on before, and you can obviously save money renovating it, with the crews that are out there doing the construction and the renovation and the either on the building side or the one-off apartment side. There's a lot of people looking for work. So and with the fall in the hryvnia, that's makes us pretty cost competitive. In terms of financing, we're all equity financed right now. I think there's not a whole lot of lending or borrowing going on right now in Kyiv, as everybody's aware of. Banking sector is pretty tough. From what we understand, you could potentially borrow from certain banks here in hryvnia. There wouldn't really be any hard currency lending in dollars or euros, but you could potentially lend in, at a low kind of loan to value in the 20% kind of range, which to us is not attractive. So at this point, that market is pretty shut down for the most part, and obviously if and when that comes back, that'll kind of show that the market's getting better and improved, and that prices will be rising. So I think that's all I have to say about residential.
Thank you.